Creation, evolution, or both. I read in Genesis where God made different kinds of sea creatures and different kinds of birds and different kinds of animals, different kinds of bugs. Everything that creeps on the earth, God made the different kinds of animals. And some of each kind was on Noah's Ark. They made it through the great die-off. And then today, we have still different kinds of animals, same kinds of animals, but we have different species. So Darwin comes along and says, oh look, I'll write a book, Origin of the Species by Means of Natural Selection. Okay, that fits. So we have God creating the kinds and natural selection creating the various species, all in order, if you take a biblical worldview for the origin of the kinds. And even Darwin in his book said that God breathed life into the original different kinds of animals. He also says, or maybe just one. You know, get in there that concept that it all came from one, when actually the Bible says God made different kinds, and Noah brought some of each kind on the ark. And we see that in the fossil record. We see coelacanths in the fossil record, and we see coelacanths today. I was reading about it in The Scientist. But the coelacanths we see today are different species. They're still coelacanths, just like in Noah's time, just like in Adam's time, but there's different species today. You know, the Laotian rock rat that we see today, we see in the fossil record, Adam named that little rat. Adam named the red panda and the dragonfly and the tartua and the ancient grebes, and he probably didn't have to name the sharks, skates, and rays, and everything else we see in the fossil record that we see today also. They look exactly the same. They're the same kind of creature. But genetically, we can get into them and look at them and say, well, you know, they're different species. There's small variants in that. Some are different sizes, different shapes, different colors. It's like, wow, cool, that fits. Observable facts fit with the faith that we read about in Genesis 1. We have all these different kinds. They have come down through us over the years, but they've changed into different species. But a horse is still a horse, of course. And a dog is still a dog, and a cat is still a cat. And a dragonfly is still a dragonfly, and a red panda is still a red panda, and a coelacanth is still a coelacanth, although there are different species. And scientists have proven that. We have different species today. The fossil record shows us the kinds have not changed. And that's written in stone. So let's have a quick look at what the fossil record actually says. It says animals once lived, they got killed, some kind of flood, covered them over, they turned to stone, we have a record that they existed. Some of them, called living fossils, a term Darwin coined, are still alive with us today, like the red panda. I like the red panda. The dragonfly, the coelacanth, and others. Actually on Wapika, and you can find it all over the web, there's a whole list of animals that once lived and are alive today. Bacteria, plants, fungi, mammals, birds, like the magpie goose. And it's still recognizable as a magpie goose today. It's the same kind of animal. Reptiles, amphibians, jawless fish, bony fish, skates, rays, sharks, turtles, insects, crustaceans, mollusks. They're all the same kind of animal. That's what the fossil record tells us. Whether they lived thousands of years ago or millions of years ago, they're still today, if they've survived, the same kind of animals. And in every category of living creatures, basically, they're still the same kind of animal, which is what the Bible said will occur. Kind will reproduce after its own kind. Darwin comes along, like I said before, and says, oh, well, this is where the species come from. But that's all the fossil record says. It says they once lived, they died, and the kinds that we saw before are still the same kinds of animals that we see today. So from a biblical point of view, God made the kinds, Adam named some of them, Noah transported some of them have not been killed off or eaten, like they found the Laotian rock rat rat in a meat market, as well as the coelacanth in a meat market, and we don't find mammoths today because they can find butcher marks on the remains of them someplace. And we don't have the passenger pigeon today either. Animals go extinct because other things eat them. But besides that, that's all the fossil record tells us. The kinds that were once in existence that are still alive today have not changed. Just a wrap-up that shows that what we accept by faith in the scriptures, the Bible, we can see in the fossil record, and scientists can prove through good analysis kinds are still the same kinds, although we have different species. So in one sense, if you take Darwin at face value, origin of the species by means of natural selection, you have that type of evolution. But God made the original kinds. Think about it. That's what the physical evidence says. The kinds have not changed. And you can read about it in The Scientist. The kinds have not changed. A coelacanth is still a coelacanth. But we have different species today. That's what the physical evidence says. And it agrees with the biblical record.